Right. The problem is it's cheaper to innovate by deception, fraud, and irresponsibility, right, than it is to innovate by innovation, discovery, innovation, and product production. Just like it's cheaper to lie than it is to tell the truth, which is why
I never found that to be true. I can't remember the lie well enough. I'm not smart enough to lie very well.
My wife used to say, you're lying. I'm like, I'm not lying. I'm stopping you from, I'm not so much lying, like trying to get something, as I'm lying in defense. Most of the time, almost everything I do is like, leave me alone. I don't want to think about that or solve that problem for you. Right? I mean, that's like, if I think about any time I lie, that's all that's going on. Just leave me alone. You don't belong in my head. It's none of your fucking business. I don't want to talk about this, whatever. Right. Right. That's like, but when you have a wife who's got OCD, right, wants to interrogate you constantly. So what I developed as an alternative was I would just creatively lie, which is I would make up bullshit stuff, which would lead her down this chain of gullibility to the point where she said, "Oh, you're so full of shit," right?
It's all right,
So
man.
you stop lying per se, and you tell stories that to deflect. Because I just like, fuck, leave me alone.
Right.
Or the problem I've had with most company as I've run is that I'm like, the truth is, if I explain it to you, you won't understand it. That's why you have to trust me. Or my favorite one, if I explain it to you, you'll try to take advantage of the explanation and you'll interfere with it. So it's better that you don't understand what I'm doing. And so what happens is you develop business partners who know that's what you're doing, and they just leave you alone. Right. So that's how it worked for me. Right. It's just like, because you know that people, it's like the market problem. If knowledge gets into the market, people will take advantage of it.
Of course.
Right. Well, so the problem is that they'll take advantage of it, trying to outwit it. They won't try to take the same advantage. They'll try to take a personal advantage.
Yes. Yeah. So they'll try to take irreciprocal advantage.
Right. So I would very often, put a strategy together and do my strategy training session. But I tell them what they're needed to do, but I don't tell them everything, because I tell them everything, they'll all try to game it. Right. So is that lying? Well, it's in order to prevent, to create a commons. So this is the problem with being truthful.
Yes.
Is you can only be as truthful, right? It's different. Lying to create a white lie, right? A white lie to comfort, but I almost like there's a gray lie, which is to preserve yourself from a fault, right? And a black lie, which is to obtain a benefit at someone else's expense, and what I call a purple lie, which is when you're telling a lie in order to cause someone harm, even though you're not going to benefit from it. Right. But there's the other side is like, well, there's a white lie, but there's also something else, which is to not give people information that would cause them to adopt incentives that are contrary to the interests of the group.
Right. To cause them to defect from the group in a manner that is harmful to the group. Right.
In other words, when you're trying to produce a commons, there's some things you just can't tell people, because it will provide incentive for them to privatize your attempt to construct a commons.
So that would qualify as a protective. So it's
defensive.
It's not a lie. It's not a lie. It's a necessary for the defense of the commons.
So this gets into military. Why don't we talk about military strategy? Because if the information got out, it would benefit the enemy, right? But it would also cause our people to behave differently from the plan that would help us defeat the enemy. So there's this defensive methods of what I call obscurantism, right? Or which is to not give that information that would create sufficient incentives for people to act contrary to the common interest, right? And so there's the other side of that. Now, in that side, I am fucking guilty. Normally, if I make a mistake or something, I'll either make a joke about it or say, yep, I was wrong. The problem is people say, Kurt, you don't ever say you're wrong. No, I just don't make a big deal about it. I just say I'm wrong. Or I fuck that up, or I have a continuous fault I exploit, I fall prey to all the time. Right? But on the other side of a defensive line, right, which is that I do it. Now, the problem is, what does the enemy claim as defensive line?
Okay.
See, they use irreciprocity, loading and framing, and false promises defensive line. That's what they think they're doing. So the problem is, I'm not using irreciprocity. I'm preventing defections from the production of a commons. In the same way, you create a via negativa.
Well, you're preventing theft is what you're preventing.
You're preventing a theft, right? And so I'm using obscurantism to prevent a theft. And so this is so it's really easy when we talk about lying proper in social construction, because they're engaged in attempts to produce a theft and irreciprocity. But when you're talking about about informational incompleteness, which violates reciprocity, right? It violates the principle of fully informed. Then you're over here with defensive partial information. Now, the way you say this is you say, I'm not going to tell you everything because this would cause a defect. This could cause problems. What you have to understand is just this. That's how I manage my board. That's how the military manages its soldiers. That's how the politicians should manage the population. Instead, they did the mask mandate thing and whatever, right? They lied about all this medical stuff, right? Or rather than say, I'm not going to tell you all the truth because it will cause misbehavior in the population.